Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your weekly horoscope for the week of September 22nd. We're coming into this week. It's a lot. We are coming in with the week, giving us a lot of energy, a lot of revelation that is happening. And so I want to tell you straight up, the week is busy energetically, breakthroughs, revelations, shifts, and changes of energy, something that feels like it's trying to be born out of you and it's not quite here yet. And then when we get to the weekend, I'm going to highly encourage you this weekend to take the rest. Take the weekend. Let yourself have the downtime. Now, as always, there's going to be timestamps in the description box down below so that you can go right to the particular day that you're looking to hear for, or you can listen all the way through. But something we want to know for this week is that coming in right away, we're still in this palpable energy of this new moon solar eclipse that's happening at 29 degrees of Virgo. Now, you have a beautiful separate video talking all about that Virgo eclipse that is happening, and I hope that you'll click over and go to it. I'll also put it at the end of this video as well, so you can go check it out and see how this story is coming through in your life. I also provided a worksheet with that video so that you can really drill this down to your story, because we do have a collective story. And at 29 degrees, something has been cracked open. There's something quite karmic. We're not imagining the energy that is shifting around us, but there are things that have been open, the truths that can't be ignored, and there are just like these reverberations that the eclipse is pulling in. But it's so much better if you're looking at your astrology, because the best astrology is your astrology. So if you haven't checked out that video, click over there, check that out. And if you don't have your own natal chart to start joining the conversation truly around this, you can also click in the description box down below and get your natal chart, because that's how you get into the conversation at all. As well, the Venus Reset program is still on sale for you right now if you're ready to get out of that burnout. If you're feeling disconnected from your Venus, from being able to even have the conception or the idea of softening. How do I soften? How do I receive, right? We can call in and have any kind of revelation we want, but if we can't receive to hold what's coming to us next, this is a Venus issue. So there's an opportunity to jump into the Venus Reset program. The people who are in it are loving it. So I'm enjoying the feedback from you guys as well. All right, beautiful friends, let's get in here and let's talk about what is going on this week. So first and foremost, as we're coming in on Monday, like I said, the energy, we are entering the week and it is a lot. Like I just almost feel like you can reach out and kind of touch it and have your fingers in it, because we are still under the vibrations of that new moon solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo. So again, make sure you're grabbing your chart to see exactly where this is vibrating for you, because that 29th degree, you'll hear it called a karmic degree, an anaretic degree. There's an urgency. There's something that feels like I need to do this. I need to complete this. I need to move this forward, right? There's an urgency that comes with that. And that is carried in as we are coming into the Monday energy, because it's been exposing to us here on Monday the things that are not sustainable anymore, but it comes with a pressure. We feel this with some kind of pressure that is like, I have to acknowledge what's not sustainable, what system, what service, what mind frame is not working and being of service to me anymore. And I have to acknowledge its lack of function so that I can step into the next chapter. And I think that this is a moment where I just want to hold space and say to you that whether you're excited about the next chapter of your life, or it is feeling challenging, or it's feeling confusing, we have to make space for it to die off. That's what this eclipse is showing us, because the eclipse never finishes in one day, right? It's a peeling over the next 6 months. And we're doing that a little bit in the dark. That's the new moon energy. We don't get to see everything. We get to start making some decisions that are really in alignment with intuition, and we move towards it and we move forward towards it like letting the path be unfolded for us as we go. So while the eclipse energy is going to pass as we continue on through the week, its lessons are bound to continue to be unfolding in you. And so I just want you to keep this in mind as you're walking through Monday, as these layers are kind of shifting in the energy of the story that you're experiencing here on Monday. But also on Monday, both the sun and the moon are going to change. The sun and the moon, the sun and Mars are going to change signs today. And so it's cool because when we have a motion of a lot going on in one day, it's kind of a signal that there's like a collective page that's also turning here as well. So as the sun is going to shift into the vibration of Libra, happy birthday to my Libra friends and happy birthday to the Libra area of your chart, because this is where we're going to start to invite a little bit more being Venusian. Again, jump into their Venus reset program. If you struggle with receiving, and holding and containing, or you struggle with, enjoying the beautiful things, the Venusian things. This is a season where the Venus Reset program can fit right into your life, but also whereas the sun is lighting up and inviting balance and fairness and a real consideration of other people, that's what this next 4 weeks is really bringing to our attention. But there is an uncomfortable truth that comes in as we deal with the planets moving into new signs. And one is that it's going to show us where we've been avoiding making decisions or having conversations, or things that need to be done relationally, maybe even trying too hard to please another person or everyone, if that's kind of what you're on, or we're staying quiet to just kind of keep the peace. So this season has a lot of Venusian goodness to add to it. But there's also a shadow side that I want us to be aware of as we're beginning our travel through this season. So the question I would pose to you is, where do we have to have harmony in our lives? We can bring it. We can act as a Venusian in this season and harmonize in the spaces that we need to. But are you also needing to call in the courage to act into some relationship in your life, even if the other person is quite uncomfortable with it? And don't worry, I'm telling you to think about where you can take action. And Mars is coming into home territory, into Scorpio. So other people's uncomfortable might be a little bit easier to navigate, because this is where, first of all, your action and your desire as Mars moves into Scorpio is going to deepen. And Mars in this particular position is completely uncompromising. It's not We don't want the shallow stuff. We need to see what's below the surface. What's the truth? What's going on intimately, right? Intimacy means you see into me, because that's the only place that we can get to evolution and transformation from. So this is where we're going to be taking these more scorpionic actions, or have more scorpionic desires that propel us into action. What is it that you really want? This is a great exercise that I did with a coach of mine. And she was talking about, for the next phase of your life, what is it that you really want? Because we can say that we want to have a certain experience, but that's a very vague overview. So now is a great time during this season and this transit, as Mars is in Scorpio, to actually get the pen, get the paper, sit down, write down what you want, being very specific, so that you can allow the energy and the frequency to move through you. And that is the greatest place to be able to see into you, brought outside, and welcome in the transformation, right? Something about pen and paper in the universe goes really, really far. Now, there is a shadow side of all planets as they move through all signs. And the biggest one here is obsession. Obsession. I'm obsessed with something. I'm not thinking, I'm not calling in something. My action is that of obsession, or manipulation can be actions that are taken at this time. I'm refusing to let go of control. So I'm going to, have this power struggle with things or people, and I'm going to be manipulative, or someone's manipulating me. This is the kind of case and scenario where, let's say you're in business and someone is getting really laser focused in the business. They're like, we're going to get this deal. We're going to have this. It's going to go this way. This is what the script sounds like. But it's at the cost of the rest of the team. Okay, so think about that. In a relationship, is there something going on in your relationship and there's a buried resentment happening in there and you're feeling it? It's coming out over the toothpaste, it's coming out in other power and control dynamics. And now, as Mars is here, it might demand or create a circumstance where you have to have that confrontation because Mars isn't just about the fight. Mars is about the fight to get things flowing and moving forward, right? Really positive actions you can take at this particular time as you're experiencing this transit is whatever is coming up, channel it. Channel that focus into transformation. Whatever's coming up for me, how can I use it to transform or to get to the other side? How can I tackle an issue or a project that I've been afraid to face? That's a very Martian move, okay? Now, we're also going to experience as we are out of that eclipse vibration and we travel the rest of the day, the moon is moving in Libra as well. So that is a lovely energy. It's going to be a nice day of flow emotionally. We're looking at balance here. The soul's asking us to release a little bit of that fear of intimacy with the Mars in Scorpio, while also having a human practice of honest dialogue. How do I go back and forth? How do I feel? How do I give information? How do I also receive? So Monday is a busy day, but it can be lovely as well. Now, on Tuesday, we're going to see that the sun comes into an opposition with Neptune. It's also going to trine Uranus, and we're going to see that Mars comes into a quincunx with Neptune as well, so also a busy day. Now, we're going to start our day here on Tuesday with that Mars quincunx to Neptune. So this is uncomfortable because the quincunx acts as like an itchy tag. I can't, or I've got an itch in the middle of my back or in the middle of my foot, and I can't get it and I can't relieve it. And Mars wants a certain kind of action and it's deeper action. And Neptune is dissolving the direction that we're trying to get things going. So it's almost like, what am I taking action for? It can feel restless and unclear, like driving when the windows are fogged up, right? It can feel a bit like that here on Tuesday. And the truth here is that some desires, some of the things we're going to find out or feel are flowing to the surface, and they're the things that we desire, they're not in alignment. They're just not in alignment with our spirit. They're not in alignment with the spirit of who we are trying to live as, right? And so today's discomfort, as we're here in Tuesday, I think creates a highlight to that. Now, a big thing I've been talking about this year, and I talk about it in my book as well, is that the quincunx is not always looking to be resolved. Sometimes it's just looking to be experienced. What does it feel like to be that level uncomfortable? Right? Maybe you want to push through at work, but your body and your intuition are saying, no, it's not time, or that's not right. That's not how we want to do that. And what does it feel like to have to stop and listen and be uncomfortable in it, but also know that you can survive it, or maybe you are attracted to someone. This can be massive because we get those chemicals going, right? You're attracted to someone, but you realize that the fantasy doesn't match the reality. And this can be the fantasy doesn't match the reality because you're picturing them to be this beautiful, like, Cora Riley mafia boss kind of whatever. And it turns out that's not what that person is, but also the fantasy can go the other way. You're imagining them being untrustworthy, fill in the blank, not good. And you find out that it was your fantasy and they actually are. So it's just a really uncomfortable kind of energy. And then we're going to layer into that bean dip a little bit of the sun in an opposition to Neptune. And this transit is notorious for confusion, for projection, for idealization. So we're already throwing that into what is my action really doing? So I would say here on Tuesday, as we layer this in, to be cautious of, first of all, putting someone on a pedestal for any reason, right? Or believing the story that your head is telling you. Your head could be telling you a story that's not actually what's playing out in reality, or you're watching something online and you're like, is that really like that? Your head's convincing you your life's not good enough, something like that. And that might not be what's really going on online. So it's kind of a day where you're having to refrain from making any big decisions about what's good or bad enough in reality. You have to question what you're seeing and what you're doing. I do think, because I love the world of business, that this is a day where I would tell, if you had a business deal or something like that going on, and it just feels like this is the most magical business deal to ever come through. But the paperwork's not clear. What do you get in the deal? They don't have a contact phone number. If anything feels off, this is where I'm going to say that's probably moving towards the shadow. But the gift of this is that there's spiritual renewal, because something has to drive this human bus, right? So the spiritual renewal is here, asking you to get quiet and trust the intuition, trust what maybe you can't see just yet. Where am I craving this? Why am I craving this? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? And where is it pointing me to? Now, later in the day, as we're going to continue to move along, the sun is going to trine, which is a nicer energy and a nicer opportunity with Uranus. And that is a breakthrough energy. So it might have been cloudy, foggy, all of these things going on during the beginning half of the day more intensely. But now, I've been quiet, I've been still, I'm listening to the intuition, and this is the space of fresh ideas. This is the place of there's a kind of maybe an unexpected solution that is presenting itself to something, or a conversation. We're in Libra terrain here. Maybe there's a conversation. It feels like it's liberating a whole situation around me. This is a great place to use that Sun trine Uranus opportunity. Now, the fog is still there, but I think that this helps break it up a little bit. Maybe you get this sudden insight or like genius idea, because that's how Uranus works, on how you need to restructure something in your team, something in your schedule, something in your health and your wellness plan for the day, whatever it is, and it really reduces a lot of the stress. Or maybe you end up having a conversation about that person you thought was really attractive earlier in the week, and somebody tells you some really quirky things where they're like, oh yeah, no, that's not it at all, but this person's actually very good at this whole other activity, and we could use them on the team, right? So it's like you get to get a different perspective on someone or on a situation, and that is a really positive action and a positive energy that comes from this. So experiment in the second half of the day. If you're working on a project at night or you're doing something like that, experiment, try, play with things, and be willing to come at you and everything from a completely different perspective. Now, on Wednesday, we get a little tense and a little tight again, because we've got Mars in a square to Pluto, and the moon is also moved into Scorpio as well. Okay, so first of all, I do think that although Monday is busy, Tuesday's got some stuff going on, I think that Wednesday is our tension day of the week, because we've got Mars over in Scorpio, and as it is square to Pluto, who's not only retrograde but also in Aquarius, we're locked into a fixed square here. And fixed squares, right? Think about that fixed energy. It does not want to be moved. So it intensifies issues around control and power dynamics. So this can be a tense day. And because Pluto is already retrograde, it's about something that you've already seen. It's been coming into your life since 2024 in that Aquarian area of your chart. So we've already seen it. And now Mars is coming in trying to deepen action around it, and you may be resisting. Now, both of these planets are the rulers of Scorpio. So this also is not a light energy. They're very familiar in the terrain that they are working in, okay? Now, one uncomfortable truth that I think we have to acknowledge, because they're pulling against each other, Mars is going this way, Pluto's going this particular way, is that old wounds that any of us have around survival can be coming to the surface. How am I going to survive? How am I going to make it? These are the stories that can come up. Or feeling stories of dominance. I'm dominating you, I'm dominating something, or being dominated. These can be rising to the surface, and we're looking at needing to deal with it. And this can be fights over resources, struggles for power, right? And that's humans. We've been doing that forever, but maybe it's a struggle for power or dominance in your workplace in some way. Pluto and Mars are pretty infamous for bringing pretty heated confrontations, fisticuffs coming together. Now, in your relationships, I would love for it not to be coming to that, but it's like where there's been a power imbalance, you could be in a confrontation. Now, it doesn't have to be all negative because, again, Mars does want to clear the air so that things can continue to move on. But let's say that you work with a company or there's a particular company and we're trying to enforce a bunch of new rules or restrictions and we have different reasons for why we're trying to do them and they probably from the rest of the week don't make a lot of sense or don't seem clear yet. And then what happens is there's a rebellion. The employees are like, no, I don't want to do that. Or on a personal level, let's say that we bring that into our homes and your partner is like, no, I want to have more control. I want to be in charge of this. And you're resisting. Or the other person in the household is resisting, right? So there's a lot of that energy that is available here on Wednesday. But there's a gift. There is a gift. The gift is transformation. Now, with any opposition, we can let it get wide, 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 and it pulls apart. And if we're trying to figure out the purpose of an opposition, it's a great place to fail. We want to find the goal because the goal will demand that we pull things to the center in order to achieve the goal, right? So accountability is the answer. This square demands accountability. It says, one needs to die so that something more authentic can live. And what is my part in that? It is a very accountability aspect. So if you are looking at your life this week and you're going, okay, am I responsible and to be accountable for where I am clinging to outdated methods and thinkings and beliefs, a toxic relationship, false security. This transit may help rip them away. But what's the goal? It's going to empower you to reclaim your own agency here. The goal is for you to be whole, to know you are whole, holy, and loved, and to feel empowered in that. And that is where I think the gift is here. So channeling all of this intensity into what is the goal of positive, purposeful change that you want for yourself. If it's the only way to get there is to break some kind of really destructive habit, to seek some therapy, to stand really firm in your boundaries so that you feel right when you go to bed at night and you can look yourself in the eyes in the mirror. That's what this vibration is around. Now, again, we do have the moon traveling through Scorpio and that moves in earlier in the day. So the day is amplified with the scorpionic vibration today. It just really is. Okay, when we get to Friday, we're going to see that the moon is going to shift into the vibration of Sagittarius and the energy begins to lighten a little bit. You know, it's been an intense week of energies. The sun, Mars changing signs, Neptune fog, Mars, Pluto. This is where I think that Sagittarius gets to do some really good humanitarian work and remind us that there is still joy in learning, in exploring, in going on this journey that we call life that we chose to come into, and in widening our perspective, sometimes in ways that we didn't even see coming. You know, we're pulled a lot more towards a desire for freedom. When the moon is traveling through Sagittarius, there's a playfulness, there's an inspiration that comes with this because the moon is back in fire. So it's a fiery kind of rising up to kind of burn emotionally off a bit of the heaviness and urging us to also do something I think is really important throughout the weekend. Move your body. Move your body. It's been a lot of energy this week. So move your body because sometimes just in moving the body will shift the emotions and shift the perspective. Now, here's an uncomfortable thing I want to talk about throughout the weekend. Sagittarius, while bringing this levity and this light, can also move to a place of trying to just gloss over or escape what's been going on or being in a space of distraction. So, with everything that's been going on in your life, in your world, in your journey, making sure that there's not this skipping over and absolutely making sure there is not this spiritual bypassing to just try and run towards the optimism without actually sitting in the discomfort first, right? This is a place where Sagittarius can come and do that. but it's also a great place to allow yourself to be called out. And what's the balance between not staying so mired in the heavy energy all week and needing to take a break and have a perspective and play and laugh and receive and put a good lotion or a good oil on yourself, do a deep condition, some of these very Venusian things that actually are soul food, and needing to like get in there a little bit more. You know, the desire, I just want to move on. I just want to move on. I don't want to grow anymore. I'm trying to chill. You know what I mean? We can't just have the move on before the integration happen, but we also don't have to sit here and like keep drinking from the fire hose every 5 minutes. So as we're traveling throughout the weekend, I want you to keep in mind that there is some optimism on the rise. And I think that it's really great for us as we're going to wrap up the week. But Sunday does also reveal to us that sometimes the truths that we're like really encountering, particularly about ourselves, not so much about other people, but about ourselves and maybe where we've viewed or we've put weight on other people to carry expectations that we have put on them, it can sting, or coming to the truth that we have ignored our body's needs for rest. We've ignored our finances. We've ignored some kind of unresolved conflict. We have a task or a class that we needed to do or finish, and we just haven't done it, right? It bubbles up, and that information can sting just a little bit. And in Sagittarius, sometimes what happens is we attract a person to us who gives us a bit of blunt honesty about what's been going on. So, just it's a place I would say that here as we're traveling throughout the weekend, it's an amazing place to come back. We're all human. We all didn't do the thing we were supposed to do that one time or maybe two times, and that is okay. Try and bring some light, trying to bring some levity to it, and ask yourself, in the world and the life that you want to live, what is your vision for that? That's a very Sagittarian question. What's my vision for this? The big picture, the goal. Sit down, get your pen and paper, like I talked about earlier in the video, because Sagittarius, when it connects the dots between what's the struggle I'm going through and how does it help me shape this big picture reality, that is when we see the genuine optimism of that beautiful centaur with the arrow coming through for us. Because the centaur has to pull that arrow back really, really far sometimes, which is sometimes me falling back on a belief or an idea, but it gets pulled back so that it can launch forward really, really far. Think about how sad that is. If you had a bow and arrow and you only pulled it like this, it's just going to go straight to the ground. That's very sad. So let's end the week on a not spiritual bypass, not beating ourselves with the flagell things or anything like that, but in a pretty optimistic place of where we can grow and where you can grow into the life that you want to have for yourself and that your astrology supports as well. All right, my absolutely beautiful friends, I love you a ton. I love to see you in the Venus Reset program. At the end of this video, I am going to put the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo video so you can go back and watch that. And even though the date is going to pass, you can watch that video for the next 6 months and continue to see where that story is particularly true for you. I'm also going to put the other video to help you find this active transit in your chart if you're not able to find that just yet. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.